because for me, this screams opportunity.
I've always been a Solana maxi.
One thing I can take away from Farhaj's story here is that Solana is the most competitive country in the internet, as you just said.
Good meme. But I do just want to reiterate, creating content consistently is really, can I swear?
Yeah.
Really fucking hard. Overall, I'd say very bullish news for not just Solana, all of Web3.
Not just the wallet. So that's also how they distinguish in my head from Phantom, Soulflare, Backpack, and the other wallets on Solana.
Yeah. I also just like cats. So, like...
Welcome to Soul Brothers with my dear friend Farhaj today and myself, Simon. And at Soul Brothers, it's our job to throw you into the Solana rabbit hole and show you around in our exciting ecosystem.
Our mission is to stay on top of the latest and greatest news on Solana, and so that you never run out of the fun things that are happening in our ecosystem.
That's exactly right. And as you can see, as you can tell, today I'm joined by a special guest. This is not Eno, as you might see already.
Yes.
I'm here with Farhaj. So welcome to Soul Brothers, Farhaj.
Thank you. I am Korean Jesus' adopted brother, and so I'm happy to be here today.
That is definitely a lie. But I'm super happy I have you, bro. Like, this is a special EP.
Yeah.
Because normally, obviously, Soul Brothers started with Eno and myself.
Yeah.
And normally we don't have guests even.
Yeah.
Like we almost never had guests on the pod.
Yeah.
And we never had a co-host.
Yeah.
Despite Eno. So this is the first.
Well, I'm very honored to be invited, and I'll try my best to replace Eno. It's next to impossible, but either way, I'll channel his energy in my heart.
That's cool. I think we want your unique energy for this one. Okay,
Cool.
I think you have your unique energy, Farhaj, and we're gonna make use of that one.
Sick.
But we're gonna run a normal podcast today.
Epic.
So we're gonna talk a little bit about Solana prices, where are we today, where we're moving next,
Thanks.
potentially. What is happening in terms of product launches, new tokens on Solana.
Epic.
What kind of fun and drama is on the timeline.
Yep.
And we're just gonna bounce off a little bit our comments on these things, so that the dear listener out there knows exactly what happened in the past 7 days on Solana, because
Locked and loaded. Let's do it.
Awesome. So while we're recording this as well, we're obviously in a live stream. So GM to everyone who's also tuning in to the live stream with us right now. Thanks for being here. And obviously, as you can tell, this is a bit of an improvised setup for the live streams because we're going to focus today more on the podcast. As always, we have a full camera setup here. But back to the pod. Farhaj, I'm going to kick off the whole conversation today. First of all, by talking at least a little bit about yourself and who you are and what you're doing here.
Yeah.
Maybe for context, because we are right now in Dubai.
Yeah.
We are at Solana Economic Zone, which is a co-working, networking and co-workshopping experience, I would say. And I want to give the audience a bit of an idea of who you are actually and what's your relation to Dubai as well.
Yeah.
And what you think so far of this whole setup of the Solana Economic Zone. So
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, man. I think to kind of speed run my introduction, I'm Farhaj. I'm Indian, but I was born and raised in Dubai. Mm-hmm. So I grew up in this really cool city and saw it evolve right in front of my eyes. I went and studied in the States. I've worked on a few startups, most recently at a company called BuildSpace. That was really cool. And I've always been a Solana maxi. Mm-hmm. And so ever since the Degenerate mint, I've been around.
That's where it started?
Yeah, that's how it started.
What pulled you into it back then?
Actually, I was hosting a hacker house while I was working my last RegTech startup in Miami during COVID. And one of my friends were like, we had an extra room with 2 bunk beds. And one of my friends was like, hey, there's this guy, he's a friend of mine. His name is Barrett. Do you think he can come and have a place to crash? And that's Barrett from Mountain Down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so he came and he was an absolute, just amazing energy and a presence in our spot. And unintentionally he might have ended up Solana pilling the entire bunch of us in the group. What's funny is I think there's at least 6 or 7 people since that house who are now actively contributing in different ways across the ecosystem. So,
I can relate to that. The same thing happened, I think, at Solana Founders Villa 1.
Yeah.
Where I was not the only one, but where literally people that were chain agnostic on different ecosystems, they came for the first time to Solana event with Solana people, and they left as maxis. They were like, I'm not going to build anywhere else.
I think it's a culture, honestly. There's a certain level of intensity and obsessiveness that the people had, who I continue to meet in Solana. And I think it's very product-led thinking, not philosophy-led thinking or academia-led thinking. which I like a lot. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how, again, some people might think it's important, but like decentralized or XYZ or whatever it is, like whichever chain, which I think of as internet native country, has the most amount of citizens that are attracted to it because it has great infrastructure, great businesses, great quality of life, and great opportunity. That's the one that's going to win. And I felt like culturally Solana represented like San Francisco on the internet, where failure was encouraged. People are willing to put their social capital behind other people to just help them move 5 steps along. It's just like a very helpful community, not a lot of judgment, more optimized on can we make epic products and get them on the internet. And so yeah, I gravitated towards that. Kind of sum it up, tail end of my time at BuildSpace, my co-founder Babak and I, we're now building FORMA together. We started talking to governments, and we talked about 25 governments all over the world. And something that we learned were a lot of them saw entrepreneurship as a bug, right? Not a feature in most of their countries. Because culturally they had created the sentiment that made people go into the working class, and they kind of like discouraged them from pursuing entrepreneurship. And so there was this huge appetite from countries that wanted to change this. But the problem was because they culturally discouraged entrepreneurship, there were not a lot of great opportunities in their country for young people to start companies. And in my opinion, the great equalizer is the internet. Right now, regardless of what socioeconomic status you're in, what passport you hold, what country you're born in, you can just live, work, earn dollars on the internet, raise capital for your business on the internet, find dollar-paying users and customers for your business on the internet. And I think Solana is like the most permissionless place to launch a company. Right? It is the most competitive country on the internet for you to go and build a business. And so on one of our road trips back after meeting a government, I was talking to Babak and I was like, man, this is kind of a crazy idea. I think if we think about Solana like an internet native country, like wouldn't it be cool for it to establish trade relations with other countries and maybe trade resources? A country could give us favorable laws, regulation, welcome us, give us the red carpet rollout. And we give them, capital, we give them users, we give them founders, business people, people who can come and shake stuff up.
Which they want.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's kind of when we first came up with the meme with Akshay of like a Solana Economic Zone, where we're like, this is like a place where an internet country and an IRL country get to collaborate, trade resources, and start to create a lot of economic activity. It's not necessarily a physical office. It's just kind of a movement, right? Can we get policy leaders, product people, really cool founders, just internet talent together in a country that's willing to welcome them and make something happen? And so yeah, the first one we did was in Argentina. Ever since then, we've been working on a wide variety of stuff, but now it's really cool. Alex from Super Team is an absolute badass, and he's taken the meme and taken it to the next level. Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of really like nostalgic for me too, coming here, because where we are right now, Sheikh Rashid Tower was the first skyscraper ever built in Dubai.
1979.
Yeah, it's the tallest building standing then.
79. Yeah. Back then in Germany, what they did, they were like just, I don't know, like they were just cleaning up from the war. Honestly, and here they were like building skyscrapers in the desert.
Exactly. It's a country that's only 52 years old, I think, right now. And it's evolved really fast, and it's been extremely welcoming to crypto. We're having government representatives, some of the biggest institutional leaders in crypto, all of them actively coming and talking to everyone regardless of stage or status, right? Welcoming them and letting them know this is a great place to build. So to see like an SEZ here, it's really cool. And I think, this new format of like these pop-up villages, which are IRL gatherings for 100 to 200 people, where outside of the conferencey workshop stuff, you get to actually co-work, live, do these interesting things, and get to know each other at a deeper level is really cool, because you get to make like 3 to 5 friends who you don't really have to explain what you do for work to. And they're actually interested in getting to know you. So the internet friends to IRL friends pipeline, I think that's what this is all about. And at the same time, when we can propagate a country story and tell that message, it's like really cool. So
highly valuable.
Happy to be here, man.
It's amazing. Great story as well. Farhaj, like all your background. And I think you also have a very diverse, set of experiences that you lived through. Being born and raised in Dubai, as I understand, and then living in the States for a long time, getting in touch and feel for entrepreneurship in the US. Which is like, this is where it all started. Right? That's where the whole entrepreneurship movement really came from. When the internet emerged. And having learned that, and now venturing out into all these emerging markets and developing countries. with your skill set and trying to push internet markets into these countries is pretty cool.
Facts.
And one thing I can take away from Farhaj's story here is that Solana is the most competitive country in the internet, as you just said.
Good meme.
Which is a great meme, right?
Yeah.
There's like a lot of things that flow into that statement actually.
Yeah.
Because for me, this screams opportunity.
Yeah.
It screams, hey, you can build something here.
Exactly.
You know, it's a new emerging country. We have opportunities for businesses here,
Yep.
for users that want to live here as citizens. They want to just use the infrastructure we have, and I think that's why Solana is thriving so much, because we created this network effect already of citizen and businesses in this beautiful country that's governed as decentralized as we can do it in an efficient way.
Yeah, we're honest about our decentralization. We're consistently working on improving it. So
it's also not as shitty as people say.
I know. Yeah.
Sometimes, where you wanna.
That's the bad meme.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool.
But that's great, Farhaj. Let's talk a little bit about prices. Okay. Cool. I want to start the first section of the podcast by looking at the charts, because that's what I do best. I talk about prices of especially the Solana token and pretend to know where the price is heading next without actually knowing it. But that's exactly what I do every week here. And guys, if you're listening to this right now, we are on the 15th of April and Solana is trading at $131 on the chart. We're looking at the daily chart right now, and we can see that we're still down here in an area where we had quite a big pullback after our all-time high of almost $300, which was epic in January, end of January 2025 this year. But since then, we have seen this sharp decline to the downside. And right now, if we zoom in a little bit, and if you're asking yourself, what is happening next? Where are we going from here? Then let's see if we can clarify a little bit. So we've seen a potential bottom on the 7th of April, which was the Black Monday. Maybe you recall, Farhaj, the whole tariff thing emerged. Trump was like...
Song and dance.
It was crazy. Like that. After the 7th of April, we've seen the sharpest decline in S&P 500 even. In traditional stock markets ever in history.
I think Solana went down with like $98 or something like that, but it was pretty resilient, man.
I mean, crypto was actually surprisingly resilient at around that time. Solana less than Bitcoin. But it was interesting to see that Bitcoin is actually holding better than S&P and Nasdaq. It was like, what is happening?
Love to see it.
People are pulling out capital from stock markets and putting it in Bitcoin because they believe this might be a secure place right now to put my money.
It's a hedge against government overreach, you know?
It used to be gold, and now we're kind of understanding, okay, this whole digital gold meme around Bitcoin is vibing with people.
Facts.
You know, a lot of people start to understand that. But right now it actually doesn't look too bad, because what I'm looking for since the low that we've seen on the 7th of this month is a confirmation that we might see a reversal to the upside. And I'm using a lot of Elliott wave analysis when it comes to TA. And according to Elliott waves, you need to see a 5-wave move to the upside, a 5-wave structure to the upside, and then a 3-wave pullback to the downside. And that would confirm that the bottom, the local bottom, might be in, and we're again trending towards higher prices. And if we do that, if we complete the 5-wave structure, we might actually push towards a new all-time high once more before a wider bear market could establish themselves. But that's far in the future still in crypto time. But we saw a 1-2 setup right after the low. Then we saw an impulse to the upside, which usually is the start of a third wave. So the third wave also extended into the ideal target zone. In my chart, we can see it for people that are watching this on YouTube. We actually reached the 161 FIB extension, which is the ideal target for wave 3. So all these things kind of worked out really well. And now we're in this consolidation to the downside, which is potentially a wave 4. So I'm right now looking for a retrace. I think the wave 3 should be completed very soon. I want to see a retrace and a retest of the support around $115. As long as we don't break above $112, maximum $110, this whole scenario is my primary scenario right now. And then I would be looking for a final push in the 5th wave to the upside, and that would be the first indication that the low is actually in. So it sounds logical if you think about it. It sounds reasonable. Obviously, we never know how it will play out actually. But looking at this and thinking about what happens in the world right now, I think it does kind of fit into the whole macro theme, right? With the tariffs. I don't know if have you followed the whole tariff discussion a little bit and what Trump actually did with the tariffs?
High level.
High level?
Yeah, I mean, he put really strict tariffs on EU and then kind of pulled back. But what's crazy is I feel like it started a lot of conversations that were not necessarily a finely paved highway. between like Europe and other countries, right? Like Europe is now considering taking tariffs away from Chinese EV cars, which is unbelievable.
Yeah.
They have opened like negotiation line directly to the United Arab Emirates. You know, and I think at a foreign policy level, there's a lot of new avenues of trade that are coming into play that didn't exist before.
Because of the move of Trump.
Yeah, and so it's quite interesting, but I think the sentiment right now is things are chill again-ish.
because of the tariff break.
Yeah. The tariff pause. Yeah.
It is 90 days, so it's not it's not a long-term fix. So we still have this tension between the trading nations here.
Yeah.
But then also you need to keep in mind that China is really like they're kind of fucked right now because they didn't react at all to Trump, while all the other nations started to kick off negotiations right after he said, hey, we're going to impose 70% tariffs on you. That was, for example, Vietnam, super high. And then they were like, okay, let's talk about it, let's find some common ground. China was like, nah, we're not playing around. You do you. And then he upped the tariffs to 145% for China.
What the heck? Really? Wow.
And that's where it stopped.
Yeah.
And that's where he was like, okay, that's where we're at right now. I'm going to pause everyone, but China, you have 145%.
Wow.
Good luck with that. So what does that mean for Chinese economy? The Chinese one went down as well.
Exports are probably taking a massive hit right now,
of
right?
Course,
because costs of goods are so high. Yeah.
But then also, I mean, it doesn't really play out really because the consumers are in USA. That's where the money sits. That's where it's still,
330 million people spend US dollars. Yeah, pretty massive purchasing power collectively.
Exactly. So where do you want to export to if that country says no anymore? But then also, where do the consumers in that country buy their cheap products from if they can't get it from there anymore? So it creates a lot of these economical and social tensions and problems in the world.
Yeah.
That's why I think the volatility is definitely not over yet regarding markets.
But it's temporary. I mean, it doesn't seem, at least, to my naive understanding, that there are like long-term, strong, implications that they'll be caused by this, but again, I might be wrong.
We need to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I think the one thing I heard too is like the whole rare mineral trade, right? The largest amount of concentration of rare minerals apparently is like primarily in China as an exporter to the US. So one of my friends was saying that might be something that they're holding as a card up in their sleeve, in the kind of negotiating deal, because like there's very strong reliance on rare minerals,
for sure.
Specifically in the defense industry in the United States.
Yeah.
So.
Also, there's so many variables in the play, so many moving pieces.
Yeah, someone's got to read The Art of the Deal.
Good point, actually. I hope he did that. I hope Trump read the book.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I think he wrote it, right?
He should reread it. At this time right now. That's what I mean.
Oh,
so I think macro and prices are volatile still, but what's still cooking, what's still happening is Solana is thriving. We have seen a lot of interesting news and launches in the past week again in the Solana ecosystem, and we want to double click a little bit on a few of these. So what I want to pull up first is the following. We have a company that announced a new stablecoin platform on Solana. And I don't even, it's M0. I don't know exactly how they want us to pronounce their name. Do you know actually?
I think M0 makes sense.
Yeah, I think M0 makes sense.
Yeah.
So M0's stablecoin platform is live on Solana, and they have collaborated together with Cast Official. And Cast is obviously a company that is right now basically leading the charge, I would say, for crypto debit cards on Solana. Very well established, and a lot of users are using Cast cards to spend their USDC on the Solana blockchain in real life. And Cast announced, together with M0, to come up with a new stablecoin that is powered by M0, and that is now on unlocking new digital dollar use cases for payments and savings. There's more companies that are joining the whole collective. Squads is pulling in there as well. G2's there, Pre-Finance, Perina. They're all working together with M0 for more stablecoin action on Solana. I think it's very interesting to see Cast jumping on that strategy as well. And what I'm asking myself still is a little bit the use case for a Cast native stablecoin, because I feel as a consumer quite comfy spending my USDC using Cast. So I can imagine there's a lot of advantages for Cast themselves to have a stablecoin attached to their protocol. If they're the issuer, they have a bit more monetary control over this, I guess. But why do I want that as a consumer, and how will they pitch this to us that we should hold the stablecoins that they give out? So
I think at the end of the day, like, when you on-ramp USDC, USDT on whatever network onto your CAS wallet, if you think about a product UX, it's just like USD that you can spend.
Yeah.
And then you basically, if you want to like move your money, you pull it out, off-ramp it, primarily as USDT to a handful of different chains. So on the back-end side, like I think they maintain like probably a very liquid like dollar treasury that's doing a lot of the money movement today. I think when you think about the rails, right, the main thing about consumer fintech is just user experience. As long as I tap the card and it works, and I send USDC and USDT and it tops up, and I can easily pull my money out, it's a phenomenal product, and that's what it is, right? And so if they're able to kind of integrate into all of these like merchant networks that they're already plugged into, I think 100 million plus merchants, and then use like, Cast DT or Cast coin, Cast USD or KUSD, for settlements, I think because they are the consumer product, they have the volumes, they have a lot of leverage. And have a direct distribution network with a lot of money movement that they can plug into, and earn more money probably from fees, and bring, like I think there's a lot of interesting things that they can do, right? Because now they can maybe even negotiate like direct partnerships with more merchants, more payment terminals, people like that. So I think it's pretty interesting because they could be their own biggest customer for this product,
Right.
And just like a lot of like very big apps on Solana are launching their own validators. I think if you're a huge consumer fintech app, there's a lot of potential. If you have the volumes to build your own stable, that becomes a settlement stable within your own network. So I'm curious to see how it goes. I saw they made a very big hire recently. I don't know if you saw, but Zach Glover,
Oh, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, the marketing guy at Phantom.
Oh, okay.
Cas just hired him to lead marketing at Cas. They just announced it like yesterday, today or something.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so
the
that's
marketing lead from Phantom Wallet switch position to Cast
to
lead marketing at Cast.
Yeah, and so that's if we're talking about transfers like the NBA, I think that's a pretty big one.
100%.
Yeah.
I didn't see it yet. What's his name?
Zach Glover.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that's pretty cool. So I think they're going all in on consumer, and I think my big thesis is like most people are just going to look for crypto native neobanks that feel like traditional fintech products. Right? And you have like one or two on rotation. Like I think of like Phantom as like my credit card, like the hot wallet, and like right now Fuse is like my savings account, and Cast is like the current account.
Yeah.
So that's my like crypto fintech infrastructure.
Right.
And so you'll be competing, by virtue of user experience, fees, a lot of different like arenas to get like N 100 million people to consistently use these neobanks.
Right. I think under one roof, this becomes also very powerful.
Yeah, 100%.
And then combine this a little bit with interesting APY opportunities that you normally also know from your bank account. Because if I used to have my bank cash laying around, I get some interest on it. Now again, we get like 4%. We want that in crypto as well, right?
Yeah, especially if it's like a yield-bearing stable, right?
Yeah. So that's what I'm thinking as well. I haven't seen any confirmation about that yet. But if there's yield opportunities baked into a stablecoin used by that protocol or by Cast in that sense, that is also very interesting.
Yeah.
Because at least you can offset inflation a little bit by just holding your dollars in that stablecoin instead of US dollar.
That's super bullish because then now I'm like, I would just, if I know I'm just getting yield and they have like, the UX lottery machine that just shows my money going up.
Yeah.
After I've topped it up, I'm gonna be like, okay, sick,
Exactly.
Because you think about it, traditional banks, like they just like low-key gaslight you. You put your money in there, they earn interest and yield on you. They're not like fully liquid on the money anyway.
Yeah.
And they're making money off of your money. Right? And so if you have a yield-bearing stable that is bringing that yield and democratizing access to that directly to your bank account, like that's pretty cool.
And there's a little bit of alpha here that I can give in the podcast because not only Cast is cooking in that area, there's also Solare, which is coming up with the Emerald card.
Yeah.
And I think it's about time.
Yeah.
I think we should watch their X account closely in the next days and weeks.
Okay.
Because the Emerald card might be coming. And the Emerald card is actually powered by SUSD, which is a yield-bearing stablecoin. So
very cool.
They're doing exactly that.
Yeah.
And there's, I think, some exciting opportunities in that whole niche for apps on Solana.
Facts.
I think we should watch their X account closely in the next days and weeks.
Okay.
Because the Emerald card might be coming. And the Emerald card is actually powered by SUSD, which is a yield-bearing stablecoin. So
very cool.
They're doing exactly that.
Yeah.
And there's, I think, some exciting opportunities in that whole niche for apps on Solana.
Facts.
The US Justice Department disbands crypto enforcement team, citing Trump order. So basically what happened is that there was the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team, or short NCET, And that team has been prosecuting a lot of crypto businesses under the Biden administration. And it has created quite a hostile environment for crypto businesses in the USA.
Real talk.
Which led to a lot of people going out, right?
Yep.
Setting up offshore, going to other jurisdictions, coming to Dubai to set up shop, and not in USA, because they were just afraid, because they had a lack of regulation and a hostile prosecution. They had a target on their back. So whatever you're doing, if you're an exchange, if you have any kind of DeFi product and you do it in the USA, you always have that uncertainty and that legal risk that someone could come and prosecute you because you did something wrong that you're not even aware of, that it is a problem at all, because no one told you really. So this hostile environment really put a big brake on innovation in the USA. And now, with this announcement here, the Justice Department says, hey, we want to focus right now on real crime. So they basically said, like Blanche said, the department will prioritize investigations into individuals who victimize digital asset investors or those who use digital assets in furtherance of criminal offenses such as terrorism, narcotics, human trafficking, organized crime, hacking, and cartel and gang financing. So all things that shouldn't be done with crypto. Yeah. I think we can all agree on that.
If they weren't enforcing this specifically, what the heck were they enforcing before? Right?
That is a good question.
Yeah, that's my question, bro.
And I think that was exactly the whole problem.
Yeah.
That was the whole problem, because it was just so much uncertainty around what can I actually do here in crypto and what will be prosecuted.
Yeah.
So obviously under Trump now, and with this announcement from the Justice Department, people might also say, hey, okay, is it becoming easier now to do something criminal in the crypto space, because they're kind of loosening the brakes a little bit? But I think it's just a shift in focus, and it's really an honest endeavor to try to pull back a little bit the hostile environment that they created under this whole Operation Choke Point movement that we saw back then.
Yeah, I think it's like a three-legged problem, right? The US basically accelerated the unbundling of Delaware, by virtue of like being a place where there was extreme lack of regulatory clarity, and there was extreme incentivized government overreach into crypto companies, and encouraged prosecution. It's like a trifecta for basically telling your businesses, the very high potential, high value businesses and high net worth tax-paying individuals to be like, sorry, you're not welcome here.
Right.
And it felt like very antithetical to like America's core values, which is like, it's a stronghold for innovation and usually the earliest adopter for really weird technology, right? And so, now it seems like basically if there's a certain level of rot in an organization, the easiest way I think to kind of like work through that is to start from a clean slate.
Right.
So I don't necessarily think this means like it stops like arbitration like entirely. They're probably leaving it up to like local courts, and like the national court to take on more of the arbitration cases. If X organization commits Y crime, then Z person who was affected by that crime is an American citizen, can file a case and go through due process, right?
The way it should be.
Yeah. Versus having like a targeted government empowered organization coming and like trying to like solicit the heck out of you.
Yeah.
You can look at Coinbase and the difficulties that they had to deal with, and they were lucky, right? And they were not a startup. They're a publicly traded company with the coffers to actually sit there and not like actually give up.
Yeah, I think we can basically thank Coinbase a lot for pushing honest and proper regulation in the USA.
100%.
By just fighting the good fight during this whole Operation Choke Point agenda. They didn't back down.
I think it's good. Basically, they're saying we're open for business again. Sorry for the trouble. And if you guys want to come and please build, that would be great. And hopefully, and what I'm seeing also is like, this administration is very interested in listening. I've seen like Rebecca Rettig, who recently joined Jito Foundation, going with Kyle Samani, meeting with Hester Pierce from the SEC.
Nice.
Solana just announced a Solana Policy Institute with the person who used to lead the Blockchain Association, which is the biggest like kind of lobbying and education group for policy in the US. So I'm actually personally very optimistic. I think my like contrarian bet would be the dynamics of how ease of doing business works in the US is going to shift. Right? Traditionally, like VCs always, when you went to raise a round, they'd be like, set up your Delaware entity and come talk to me. Because of this regulatory hostility, for the first time, American, I'd say one, lawyers, and also two founders became extremely sophisticated about offshore jurisdictions. And they found out about other legal frameworks, they experimented with it, they improved it.
And it's working, so they might just
go with it. And so if the US needs to win them back,
what's the incentive to
Yeah, and you saw what Delaware did to Elon Musk, and he had to leave Delaware, which is unbelievable. And Elad Gil, he's a super famous investor, traditional VC in the Valley. He wrote this article about how he thinks that Texas, Nevada, Wyoming might actually become positioned to be the next, Delaware.
Really?
Yeah, because Texas is already thinking of having its own state incentivized strategic Bitcoin reserve.
Interesting.
So a Texas strategic Bitcoin reserve. And Wyoming, the senator from there, is really active. They were the first people to ship a DAO LLC, and now they're like asking for a lot of favorable regulation towards Bitcoin. So I think there's going to be a competitiveness between states that's going to transpire for who ends up actually becoming the catch-all destination for crypto founders.
Which is great.
Yeah,
because
very bullish.
That creates a very good environment in the USA for pro-crypto regulation.
Yeah. So we are definitely tracking it, and we're trying to support where we can. But this is overall, I'd say, very bullish news for not just Solana, all of Web3.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think it feels like a renaissance of crypto in the US.
I like that.
That's how I would describe this whole movement right now.
Yeah.
Farhaj, do you ever forget where your DeFi positions are, and then you're like, oh, I didn't know I have money in that protocol? Does this ever happen to you?
It used to.
Okay.
Now I'm really boring.
How do you do it?
Yeah, I almost think about like, things in Solana, like, how to say, like buying like stocks in companies.
Yeah.
Right? So I have like companies I really like, and then I go and I dollar cost average into buying shares on companies that I think are really promising, like Jupiter and Jito and founders that I really believe in. And so, I don't really interact with DeFi a lot outside of like a very normie experience. Like on Fuse, I just use like Drifter and Lulo and park my stables there.
API opportunity.
Yeah, but I want to get more sophisticated because I think there's a lot of interesting things that are happening on there that I'm not aware of.
Yeah.
But I do have a bajillion wallets and I have no idea what's in there.
Okay, that's also a good point.
Yeah.
Because I want to segue into Jupiter Portfolio. I don't know if you've heard about it.
Oh,
but
bullish.
Jupiter Portfolio is now live on iOS and Android. So maybe you've heard the news, they bought Sonar Watch, and then Portfolio is now part of the Jupiter app. On Jup AG, you can actually find the Portfolio tab. And I would say right now in Solana, Jupiter Portfolio is by far the most sophisticated portfolio analysis tool right now. There's a lot of really good ones on Solana. I think another one of my favorites would be Step Finance, which also works very, very well. But obviously Jupiter is pushing now with the mobile feature where you can actually just open Jupiter Mobile on your phone.
Wow.
Which used to be just a wallet, but now you can see all your DeFi positions if you connect your wallets on there. And you can see all your DeFi positions in one tap. And the whole promise here is, which I find really interesting, is find money on other wallets you didn't even know you had. Like that's the idea that Jupiter puts out there, and it happens. It really happens in crypto that you open a DeFi position, you put some money in a lending borrowing protocol for an APY a year ago.
Yep.
And then it's there somewhere, but the tab is closed. You didn't write it down somewhere because it's like $200, and then you maybe open Jupiter Portfolio, like, hey, there's some money in there. So.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, there were so many random wallets that I've just had throughout the years. And then when the Pengu airdrop happened, they had this interesting feature. They were like, oh, just link a bunch of them.
Yeah.
And then I was like, holy shit, this is like free stocks I would have missed out on, because I was a value-adding contributor to the Solana economy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a very fair point.
I'm very excited about this, actually.
Yeah, it's a useful feature. Especially if you want to make Solana more usable, let's say, more easy to navigate in the future.
Also, banger tweet, your true on-chain net worth updated in real time. No more disappearing money.
Exactly.
Amazing, dude.
Other wallets forget, and Jupiter Mobile doesn't. So it keeps it all in one place, and you can check it out right now, like it is live in the Jupiter Mobile app.
Yeah.
And you will find your lending positions from Camino, you will find your savings accounts from Lulo in there, and you will find your LP positions from Meteora or from Orca, wherever you have them. So everything is in one tap, basically.
Dude.
And you can even jump to the underlying protocol with one tap.
Yeah.
And then basically interact with the protocol, pull out liquidity, add more into it. So basically it's a one-stop shop, right? To discover your positions and to interact with these positions as well.
So sick.
I think that goes exactly in the direction what you said earlier, Farhaj, about having crypto fintech in a one-stop shop kind of thing.
Yeah.
That is very similar to a bank account, but much, much better. Because here, literally, you have the doors wide open to the whole financial service kind of all categories on Solana in one application. Literally.
Yeah, the Jupe app is like actually really fire.
Yeah.
I use it because of two things. One, it's like a really easy way to onboard your homie to Solana because they like ship this feature where you can like send
some Sol.
Yeah, like I can send a link that says here's one USDC or one like 0.1 Sol over like iMessage, and a homie clicks that, they have Sol auto loaded in their wallet. Like it's such a cool. It's like a in like China they give us like cool like red envelopes. Like I feel like it's like a cute gift you can give to someone and onboard them. And then the second thing I think is the on-ramping. Like once you set up your MoonPay on there, like you can just Apple Pay by Sol. And it's so easy to move around, right? And so, I really like the UX. It's very simple, very clean, fun to use.
Shout out to Bibo from Drip as well, who is really pushing the Jupiter mobile agenda right now.
Oh yeah, Drip just got acquired by them, right? Yeah.
Drip got acquired by Jupiter, and Bibo's therefore the CEO of Drip, becoming part of the Jupiverse as well. And I see him very actively pushing Jupiter mobile as well.
Bullish.
He's like really involved in that product.
Yeah.
And he has a very good understanding and a very good touch and feel for very good UI UX on mobile apps.
Yeah.
He did a great job on the Drip UX.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the whole Drip team did that.
Yeah.
But I think Bibo's the right person to also bring Jupiter Mobile to the next level. And I love the whole idea of Jupiter Mobile is to not be a wallet, but to be the gate to the Jupiverse, to be the gate to everything on Solana.
I love it, man.
Not just a wallet. So that's also how they distinguish in my head from Phantom, Soulflare, Backpack on the other wallets on Solana.
Yeah. I also just like cats. So like
that's easy sales.
See cute cat, get daily active user.
That's amazing. All right, there's a few more bullish news on Solana that we can run through. But we can cover these a little bit quicker now. So we have one feature that got launched actually from the Solana developers channel on X, and they announced this last week, and it's called Confidential Balances Token Extensions. On Solana, we have token extensions that allow you to use the SPL standard for tokens, but then do a lot of interesting things with that token standard, like confidentially and bake it into the token itself. And confidential balances are the first ZK-powered encrypted token standard built for institutional compliance without sacrificing sub-second finality. So you can still enjoy all the perks from Solana, quick execution, cheap transactions, but you will have more confidentiality. You have more confidentiality when you move your money around. So you have encrypted balances and transfers, mint burn operations with discrete total supply and discrete fee handling.
Honestly, that's fire.
Yeah, that's something we've been lacking for a long time in crypto.
Yeah, like even like as a business, right? Like sometimes you don't want to have like your entire assets just completely exposed on chain. Like I'm sure there'll be a lot of like really interesting consumer products and enterprise products on Solana, like squads, for example, that will just like have this like automatically programmed in the back end. And I think it gets us to not just as like on par UX as like traditional banking system, but like significantly better. And what's really cool about this too is because of token extensions, they could probably have like a verified network of like contributors within this like payments ecosystem. And so you probably, I don't know, KYB or KYC, make sure that you don't like do AML or whatever, all the crazy stuff that you can do. So that, the new administration in the US can look favorably on the really well-intentioned businesses.
I think it's a great time.
Solana,
It's a great timing to launch this as well. As we have a lot of institutions right now looking at Solana as well and trying to, get accustomed to it. And now we have an answer to a question that has been on their mind for a long time, which is, hey, everything is public on chain, right? They're like, yes, which is a feature. They're like, no, for us it's a bug because we need
confidentiality.
We need confidentiality.
Nailed it. But it's kind of sick. It's also nice to see Solana playing long-term games with product, right? Because I think they launched token extensions when Austin Federa was still at Solana. And it's been almost an entire year, that this product has been at, and they're consistently evolving and improving and finding more utility for it. So shout out to Solana developers.
Exactly. And that's also that is what Foundation and what Solana Labs and developers, what they should do. They should empower use cases on Solana to make it easier for us builders to build exciting shit. Like, for example, encrypted payroll systems, secure B2B payments, transfers, and privacy-preserving wallets, and consumer DApps on Solana. Privacy-preserving wallets, that's actually really
I really like that,
Yeah. So please, more of that, Solana, because I think that's good net positive for the whole ecosystem and us builders as well, because we can use that stuff.
Yeah, what does Eno do? Dub.
You got it, bro.
Yeah, dude, dumb.
Okay. My brother, he can't replace you.
Of course not.
Don't be afraid.
Yeah, I'm just a fan.
But he's a big fan and he's doing a top job.
Yeah.
So let's use the moment. There's a few more things I want to double click on. What next? We have Huma Finance. Huma Finance also did a product launch last week. Huma Finance 2.0 is now live only on Solana. Real yield is now open to everyone. Earn stable double-digit yield. Bull or bear? Bullish. Stack Huma feathers up to 25x, which is their incentive system, and plug into Solana DeFi with Jupiter, Meteora, Camino, and Rate X. Here is what is new, and they announced this whole article or thread here on why Huma 2.0 is interesting. So you have a stable yield with 10.5%, which is pretty solid.
That's crazy. Like
solid.
in a bank, what you get 4 or 5% on a lucky day?
More than double, yeah.
Yeah.
Or you can go all in and stack Huma feathers only for basically, I think, reduced yield, but more incentives from the incentive system of Huma Finance. And you can also use Huma Finance directly to swap for USDC instantly using Jupiter Meteora, borrow USDC against PST on Camino, and split PST to enter leveraged YTPT strategies on Rate X stack. So Huma Finance is really building, again, kind of a one-stop shop for financial services on Solana, integrating with the best protocols out there to make a really neat user experience for consumers. And again, I think a push in the right direction for more consumer adoption. Yeah.
What's really nice is also because, they've now built this like scalable double-digit yield product. Mm-hmm. The beauty of the blockchain is all these other consumer products can actually just integrate them on the back end and offer that, right?
Yeah.
So you just have like infinite distribution for every novel product that you build on Solana.
Plug and play.
And it's just really cool because it's like a positive sum wave for the entire ecosystem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we see a lot of that in DeFi on Solana, by the way. Like a lot of cross
pollination
of different protocols. You can yield loop your JLP on that protocol.
Yeah.
And you can open your liquidity positions on Camino with a token from a separate protocol. And it's a lot of collaborative efforts to build this kind of holistic, unified system.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
I'm super bullish too, because most use cases that are AI and crypto, I'm like, that's just not real. But I do think kind of bringing the reincarnation of robo-advisor and having AI agents that can actually help people who might not be sophisticated or as, aware about like DeFi pools and opportunities and how to actually do it in the correct way. Mm-hmm. Like you could have interesting consumer products that are built within these wallets itself that go and help you find like really promising DeFi positions based on your risk tolerance,
Let's double click on one more product launch, a smaller project that hasn't been making a lot of loud waves on Solana yet, but Connect with it 3 has now basically launched finally after 2 years of building something exciting. And Connect is building basically a social media website that is aimed at incentivizing spending time with your community. How that looks like, let's also double click on a thread by the founder, by Kevin. And he says, the Connect revolution is here, everything you need to know about the new social media platform. Connect is, I think, built in collaboration with Matrika as well. So Matrika is involved in this as well. And they have identified a problem. Social media is making us miserable, he says. We are more disconnected than ever, and connected is the solution only Web3 could provide.
Good tweet.
That makes sense if you think about it. Human beings are happiest when we belong and are part of something bigger than ourselves. Connect was built from the ground up to harness the gating power of blockchain to create a novel community building interface. I think it is definitely very challenging to build SocialFi.
Yeah.
Like we've seen a lot of attempts in social media to revolutionize what we are using nowadays. But because the things they say make sense, right? We're tired of social Ponzi's, Web 2 clones with blockchain dressing. It's exactly what I mean. That will never get engagement. We need something new, and that's why they built Connect with that intention. There are no LARPs on Connect. Log in with Matrika Labs. Meetups and events have never been easier to organize and attend. All of your community updates, events, and chats on one clean platform. And they're also on mobile. Sounds interesting. A custom message center created specifically for our needs, community points to memorialize contribution, and rank members for each collection, which is also pretty bullish. We're so proud of what we've built, he says. And I think that was on the 8th of April. So they actually recently made the launch really available, and you can already go on connectwith3.io to check out the product. You do need a refer code to meter access and ensure seamless user experience. So I think they initially launched together with Madlets. So only Madlets can create referral codes. So yeah, if you want to join Connect, then you should hit up your Madlets friends and then join Connect and try it out. Interesting stuff. I want to see more SocialFi and more social media innovation here actually. So that's really cool.
Yeah. I think the community is already like a very strong part of the foundation of Solana.
100%.
You know, if Solana is an internet country, it definitely has hundreds, if not thousands, of like internet cities.
Yeah.
You know, and the communities are the ones who primarily own, operate, and run them, and grow them. And so having a platform where you almost build like a digital meritocracy for people within communities, so that they feel seen and represented and kind of cherished and can easily connect with other people. Like, I think there's a huge opportunity there. So shout out to the Connect homies. Hope it goes well. For
sure. Yeah. Keep tripping, guys. I think you still have a lot of space in front of you to fill. Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity, I think, in that space, for sure. Alrighty, guys, we're coming to an end, but there's one more thing I want to talk about. There has been a little bit of FUD on the timeline last week that I have seen, and it's not, I don't think it's highly Solana related, honestly. There was just a huge token dump. And we haven't seen one in a while, so I'm very excited to talk about it again. I do feel sorry though for everyone who had bags in that token and lost it, because obviously it was a shit show. So let's talk really quickly about Mantra. Have you actually heard about Mantra before this?
Yes, I have.
You did. Where did you hear about it, and how did you know the project?
I've seen them all over the place.
Okay.
They've been working on RWA stuff for a very long amount of time.
Yep.
Yeah, and I've been, I'd say, like curious about what they're actually building out. I think a lot of times, like when I come across projects like this, I start to like look for hyper-specific use cases, you know, where I can see like the first wave of apps or products that can be built using that tech. And so, yeah, that's it. I've come across them, you know, from conferences to tweets and stuff like that.
Yeah. But yeah, we saw basically last week, let me just check if I have I do have a picture as well of the chart.
It's a crazy chart.
It's a little bit to look at it, but
Sag.
So from $7-8 down to sub $1 basically. That's what we've seen happening last week with the ticker of the Mantra project. And yeah, Mantra was building in the RWA space, as Farhaj said already, very successfully as well. They raised a bunch of money. They had actually a billion, or multi-billion valuation as well. So pretty well capitalized project.
Yeah.
And something was a bit sketchy in the recent weeks, because there have been a few things that were going on. First of all, the team had major ownership of the token, which it happens a lot of times in crypto. There's not a lot of
not uncommon
unlocks, exactly,
but not ideal. Yeah,
it's not ideal, but it's not uncommon. And as long as the team has a genuine interest in building an actual startup, that's fine, because as the startup founder, usually you have obviously
skin in the game.
Yeah, and then it's okay to control your company's assets.
Yeah.
Right. In crypto, people want a bit more decentralization, and they always aim for more immutable systems where the founders literally have no technical possibility to do anything. In this case, they had. So there were more than 90% tokens in the hands of the Mantra team, and they sent a significant amount of tokens to, I think, Bybit or some exchange, and people saw that.
Oh, and that's what started this whole panic thing?
That's what kind of triggered it initially, because there was always already a little bit sketchy, where they were like, hey, why do we see a huge amount of tokens being sent to SECs? Usually, if you do that, you're intending to sell. Usually you're intending to do something, right?
Off-ramp or OTC or something. Yeah.
Exactly. So people got a bit scared, I think, from that transaction. It caught fire on Twitter, and then obviously some retail investors were like, okay, I better get out. And that triggered some of the sell-off, and that obviously, triggered more sell-offs.
Yeah.
And then you're in this vicious cycle of down only. And then also the team didn't really react. They were like offline for 24 hours or something, which was also a bit sketchy.
Yeah.
So there have been a few red flags involved in it. We can learn from that as crypto projects. Just, don't do these things.
Crisis comms.
Exactly.
I think we got a masterclass on crisis comms from the Bybit CEO.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right? Oh my God. They were going through what is probably one of the most difficult days in their life.
Yeah.
but the rate at which they were communicating, keeping people informed, being honest, was like just like so comforting, dude.
The guy was literally in a live stream, sitting, talking to the community, and then be like, "Oh, I gotta go," and then live stream still on. He went somewhere in an office, talked with someone, came back. I'm like, "Okay, I'm back. I have some news." And he was like literally real time.
So cool.
Live streaming. He was like, "I'm not gonna be the next FTX. Fuck this shit. This is not happening."
So based.
So yeah, I think that is a example of how to do it. And Mantra right now was probably very intransparent. Didn't really, didn't really do what was needed.
Well, I wish the team well. If they're a well-intentioned team trying to build stuff, this should just be nothing but a small hiccup in their long road.
Yeah, I like the comments as well here.
Yeah, it took over my timeline. Like, actually, everyone was talking about it.
And then
oh my god!
Yeah, we're looking right now at some of the comments in the tweet. But,
Crypto
anyway,
Twitter is savage.
The Mantra team did push an announcement then after, like a little bit too late in my opinion, but they say we want to assure you that Mantra is fundamentally strong. Okay. Today's activity was triggered by reckless liquidations, not anything to do with the project. One thing we want to be clear on, this was not our team. We are looking into it and will share more details about what happened as soon as we can. Let's believe them.
Yep.
Right? Because that's usually, I'm a optimistic person. And I first believed in the good in humans. So I think
I'm the same way. Yeah.
Hopefully they figured it out.
Yeah.
You know how I learned about it? Do you know Manta Network?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So I know Kenny, the founder of Manta, like co-founder. He invested in Solana ID as well, and I'm following obviously his channel. Yeah. And then he posted, our token is Manta, not Mantra.
Yeah.
that was it.
I saw that tweet, dude.
And I was like, what? Why? Why'd you say that? What happened?
Yeah. And then
I read the comments.
Yeah, it took over your timeline.
Exactly happened.
Yeah.
But that was
crazy.
That was pretty funny.
This is the reality with internet capital markets, right? Over the weekend, the stock exchange is not closed. Like you have to, you have to be a public CEO all the time and operate like that because. You're basically building on top of like borrowed trust from community. And they do a very big part in evangelizing and believing in and literally staking their money into your project. And so,
And it's tough, I can tell you. Like as a founder with a live token that has been also beaten down by the markets in the past month, it's not mentally easy to deal with community, investors, people pointing fingers. And blaming and so on.
Because it's like you're building two things in parallel, right? Like one arm you have like the actual product roadmap, you're delivering on it, growing it like time over time. And on the other side, like you're running a public company.
Exactly. Basically you IPO'd, you're in public light, market is always 24/7 trading, 365 days in the year. So if you log off for 2 days, you might look at your phone and be like, oh shit, why do I have so many DMs? What happened? And something might happen to your token if you...
Facts, But I think what's interesting is like, as time passes, right? If you think about it, in the early days, like also like traditional Americans were like very highly speculating on the value of companies, right? They would just like call someone because they heard a stock was really good and the guy would literally walk across the floor and hand a piece of paper if they can flag someone in time to execute a trade or purchase. And then basically as like capital started aggregating a lot more towards the stock exchanges, financial protections kicked in, then sophistication of companies increased over time. The ones who wanted to build more merit with their investors started to do transparency reports, and intentionally started to become a lot more mature, and now...
Maybe. We're not there yet in crypto?
Yeah, I think we're in the early days, but companies like Jupiter, I think with what y'all do, there's a certain level of like transparency, accountability, and communication that you bring to the table with your investors or stakeholders. And I think, like that, we're building that model in real time, right? Like what does a level of maturity look like for a crypto company that's gone public on the internet? And so I think what's happening is we're speed running through decades of history, in real time through like our internet capital markets. And I think it's really cool,
Yeah. Exciting space. That's why we're in this space because it's early. There's still a shitload of work to do.
Yeah, we're just trying things. And you can just do things.
Experimenting, but it is a fine line though because if you're Mantra or if you're a token project, you just can't experiment too hard anymore. Because you do have so much stake. So much people have.
I think there's financial experimentation, product experimentation, right? I think they're two different things. Definitely. I think there's a lot of like actually like encouragement for most companies to try mess around with like product experimentation. But I think again we're all learning together, and and I'm sure we'll find out what actually happened behind the closed doors of like a mantra. But yeah.
Yeah. We stay positive. We learn from these things.
We'll talk.
We definitely, we feel sorry though for people that lost money there. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, obviously, do your own research. It's your money. It's your responsibility. Stop pointing fingers at founders and projects because it's not always their fault, right? At the end of the day, if you pull the trigger on investment, then stand behind it, right? And don't blame others. I see in crypto, a lot of people are afraid of taking responsibility over their own choices in investments. And they start fighting on people and blaming and pointing fingers.
And then it's literally like the internet stock market. It's not necessarily like it's gambling if you choose to gamble. For sure. But you have to like have a certain amount of risk tolerance and also a certain amount of education and information about the project.
Totally.
To justify how you want to support them. So
totally.
Either way, sending good vibes and energy to everybody. I hope that. You find a lot more interesting projects on the internet.
And there's some gems out there.
Facts.
And right now is a good opportunity. Guys, ladies and gentlemen, everyone in between, one more news I want to push here, which is Solana Solstice, another conference coming to USA, actually, to New York City. So big shout out to the Solana conference teams out there that are doing real life events. Solana Solstice is coming to New York City on the 25th of June, and it's the first consumer-oriented non-conference conference. And there's going to be a lot of fun involved, no boring sessions, just real connections and experiences. So I expect an event of builders and consumers and people interested in Solana coming together, gathering not a lot of panels and workshops, but actually engaging things on the ground where you can talk to people, learn from people in conversations and so on. So this whole thing is
baller.
It's really, I'm looking forward to this one. It's going to be really cool. Not sure if I'm going to personally make it to New York City again after Accelerate is happening in May. But big shout out obviously to Monkey DAO, who is also organizing the.
I think this is around NFT NYC time.
Okay,
right?
got it.
Okay, I think that's kind of what it's centered around. Maybe, yeah.
Okay.
But I'm very bullish on community-led conferences.
Yeah.
Right. We got Solana Summit that's bringing over 1,000 people. They just did an edition in India.
Yeah.
Crossroads is going to be pretty massive,
Istanbul,
led by Step.
Coming up.
We have FORMAs, Mountain DAOs, Island DAOs. All these community-led events, and of course we're at Solana Economic Zone right now.
Yep.
But these niche-specific ones I think are the most interesting because they become a gathering point for like people who have a similar amount of knowledge or interest in specific vectors. I always say the fastest way to kind of accelerate your learning curve is to surround yourself with people who are just like 5 steps ahead of you. So if we can aggregate consumer knowledge, I think it becomes a huge opportunity for Solana to build, like app store topping, chart topping apps and actually start to even think about like interesting things like Kudis, which are like hardware products that are interesting to normal people that we can onboard.
Yeah.
And so we need more alpha because I think that's what we're missing now is like I'd probably say Solana is still like the main like leading chain with consumer products, but we need to take it up a level or 5.
Right.
So more conferences, please.
More conferences, but we have them on Solana. So if you can show up to these conferences because they can literally change your life, because for some founders they did, and including myself. When I came to Solana Founders Villa 1 in Dubai, I had a different company and I had a different product and
that's crazy.
but it wasn't the same. And when I left, 1 year later now, I'm running Solana's finest podcast together with my friend Eno. And today, together with Farhaj, thank you so much for joining today.
TY for having me.
There was an amazing episode today. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in. If you want more Soul Brothers, make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, because you can actually see this visually with our screen share and our beautiful faces in the cam as well. Or you can subscribe to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and of course our X account, because we're shipping short clips that will squeeze in the most important information from each week's episode into a 30-second format where you can get the latest and greatest if you don't have time for this long-form conversation.
Facts, yeah. Huge shout out to the Soul Brothers. Again, big TY for having me on board. But I do just want to reiterate, creating content consistently is really, can I swear?
Yeah.
really fucking hard. And so if we have people in the ecosystem who are doing, God's given work of contributing their spare time, which they barely have, because you got a CVO and the CEO of a public company, to just literally contribute to the ecosystem and spread awareness for all the good, the bad, the ugly, and the great that's happening. It's honestly a phenomenal public good. So if you could take the time to support them and all the social media platforms they're on, especially YouTube, because Solana is not winning on there yet, and I think we need to be, that would be fire. So shout out to the Soul Brothers. I'm very long Soul Brothers. And it was an honor to be here, brother.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
We're also on Drip now.
Oh, facts. I saw that.
So since last week or since this week, Soul Brothers are also on Drip, where you can actually collect special collectibles from your favorite creators. And we already shipped our first collectible, which is the short clip where we talk about the acquisition from Jupiter to Drip. So make sure to claim yours if you didn't do so.
I'm going to pull up.
Awesome.
Sick.
Guys, we will see each other again next week when it's time for the next Soul Brothers EP. Probably with Eno again in the loop as well. For today, that's everything we have for you. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks, Farhaj, for being a guest today. And
My pleasure.
See you at the next one.
Ciao.